Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SGA Sustainability Panel. My name is Grace, and I'm a student at DePaul. I'll be moderating this panel. We have members of the DePaul community here with us today who have been working this year on some sustainability initiatives, as well as just devoting their time and energy to the cause of sustainability. So I will have our panelists introduce themselves, starting with Wesley.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wesley. I use he, him, his pronouns. I have it in my little name on StreamYard or where you're watching this. I am in the Student Government Association. I am the Executive Vice President of Operations, and I've been kind of working on sustainability things since I got elected last year in the spring and a little bit before that. But I'm excited to kind of talk with all of you today about some of the things we've been working on this year.
Thank you, Wesley. Now let's hear from George.
Hi, everyone. My name is George Brigandy. I am the director of the Masters of Science in Sustainable Management program at DePaul. I also teach Management 515 Sustainability Management each quarter. I'm a proud alum. I graduated with my MBA in Sustainable Management and Entrepreneurship from DePaul in 2018. And then my full-time job during the day, as I am an adjunct, is Partnership and Development Manager at Current, which is Chicago's Water Innovation Hub. We are an NGO startup that is working to grow the region's blue economy, solve pressing water challenges, and further innovation in the sector.
Thank you, George. Now we'll hand it off to Barb.
I am Barb Willard. I am an associate professor in the College of Communication. I've been at DePaul for 21 years. And while I have been here, I have watched the sustainability and environmental studies grow and the curriculum grow. When I first came here, there was just a small department of environmental science in what was then liberal arts and studies, or liberal arts and sciences. And it has grown since then. I helped with the development of environmental studies and then a sustainability concentration in that major, helped establish the DePaul Urban Garden. And since then have worked on the Sustainability Task Force, the Institutional Sustainability Plan, and developed an environmental communication minor. So I have been dedicating myself to sustainability at DePaul for over half of my career here, so for over a decade.
Amazing. Thank you, Barb. And then last but not least, let's hear from Ewan.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to join this panel. I have a similar career to Professor Willard's. I'm a professor of geography in the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, where I also direct our School of Public Service. And I've worked on many of these same committees as Barb has for the last 10 or so years. And it's really great to hear that students are pushing the sustainability agenda on campus, because I think a lot of us from the faculty side have been teaching about these issues in programs across the institution, but it's really great to sort of try to bring this together. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation.
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. So now to get started with the panel, it is my understanding that you all as a team have been working towards some initiatives this year, as well as for many years at DePaul. But if you could speak to your current plans right now and some of the work that you've done this past year.
I can kick us off. So a few of the things we've kind of been doing this year, the group was kind of forming a lot in this fall, and we were kind of gathering a bunch of different folks from across the university to kind of form a group. And one of the first things we did was try to see where students were standing on this issue of sustainability and seeing where they stood on it. So one of the first things we ended up doing at the beginning of the year, back in the fall, was running a series of student pulse surveys. These are surveys that go out on DePaul social media, and they have a kind of yes/no simple question of, whatever you want to ask. We were asking 4 questions across a few weeks about sustainability, and those were a resounding success. We got on some of the later ones, which are, I think, were probably the more important ones, asking about if students believe sustainability should be prioritized more at DePaul. We got over 3,500 responses on those ones, and they ended up being almost 90% of students or higher were responding yes, that they do want DePaul to be more sustainable, and particularly on getting an institutional sustainability plan, we had 95% of students responding saying that they do want one, and that was with over 3,000 responses to that one as well. So that was kind of some of our first things. I don't know if someone wants to kind of elaborate on more things we've been working on since then.
Sure, I'm happy to chime in there, Wesley. So I started in the fall, and like I mentioned, I was a student not too long ago. The first part of my career was in general marketing for about 5 or so years, and I, like many people in the sector, had a realization that I wanted to do something I cared about. I was before that working at a spirits company, and I enjoyed convincing people to drink booze, but I didn't love it. And I've always had a passion for the environment and people, but until that point in my life, I didn't really see a clear path to do just that. And that was right around the time when the Paris Climate Accord was signed, and this word sustainability was gaining a lot of steam in pop culture and in business. So that's where I found the program at DePaul. So fast forward to this past fall. I wanted to do a landscaping or a situational analysis, if you will, of what was going on at the university. So I connected with folks who are on this panel, former alumni, current students, and one thing became super clear. It's that, and Barb and Ewan can provide some more context here for what's been going on at DePaul over the past decade, but we've been doing smaller projects here and there. We've got student groups that focus on sustainability, from DePaul Trees, the Net Impact, the Climate Reality Group. However, it's been pretty fragmented to this point. There's not been a holistic effort to bring everybody together to say, hey, these are all the students focusing on sustainability related work. These are all the classes you can take. This is what the university is doing on the operations side. These are the upcoming events that you might be interested in. And these are some of the alumni who work in the sector. So a big part of what we've been trying to do over the last 9 months is connect all these folks, because we need a really strong sustainability network or community at DePaul if we really want something to be lasting and significant. But 80% of DePaul students stay in the Chicagoland area. So that means if we get it right at DePaul, we can have a pretty significant impact from a sustainability perspective in business across most, if not all, industries in the Chicagoland area, which is very exciting. And so there's a lot of opportunity here, but we've got some work to do. So I'll shut up there. I'll hand it over to Barb and Ewan.
Okay, so what's so exciting to me is having the energy of Wesley and George, and certainly the energy of Ewan as well. We're aging, and we also have been at this for a very long time. We developed a task force that was appointed by Father Holtschneider years ago, and had worked on an institutional sustainability plan that was basically wanted to do just exactly what George was describing, to coordinate all of these efforts. And we had these 4 areas, the core areas: curriculum, operations, research, and community engagement, that we wanted to kind of focus on. And so we did come up with an institutional sustainability plan that lives. But to be honest, after years and years of working on this with some incredibly dynamic leadership with Jim Montgomery, who is associate professor in environmental science and studies, and Scott Kelly, who has since left the university, they just gave up. They were exhausted from the work. I was exhausted too. I'm sure Ewan was, but everyone was just still working on their curricular projects, working on their own research, what we gave up as an institution. And so when we found out that there was this group of people who kind of didn't even know about the enormous amount of work we had done in the past, but were so energized and had that youthful exuberance that only the young can bring to this kind of project, we were thrilled. And I was happy to see that, at least among our initial core, Ewan and also Christy Klimas, in environmental science and study was interested in helping this particular group out. And there are other people that are working with it as well. So I'm thrilled. I'll throw it over to Ewan so he can add anything that I've left out or whatever else he wants to add.
No, I'd like to say there was a real burst of effort from the faculty and staff side, I'd say, around 10 years ago on campus in the early 2010s. And at that stage, we were joined the ASHE, which is the Association of Sustainability in Higher Education. And Barb and I and a number of people that she mentioned, we're involved in putting together a report, and we got bronze standard for our first report. And we were really looking forward to building on that over the second half of the decade. Around the same time, Barb's already mentioned the creation of the Environmental Studies BA with a sustainability concentration. I put together the Masters in Sustainable Urban Development program in the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. The program that George graduated from, the sustainability concentrations in the MBA and the Masters in Sustainability Management, that started around the same time. I put together an undergraduate minor in food studies around the same time. And more recently, we've had the undergraduate minor in climate change policy is now available to students. So I think we have a lot of curriculum. And so as faculty, we were responding to student demand for these curricular developments. But I think one of the things that has been perhaps frustrating and why maybe some of these initiatives flagged was that we often felt that bringing this all together and having an institutional commitment with sustainability being a thread that ran through the university as a whole, it never really resonated. And maybe it took a new generation of students to put it on the forefront again, which is great. And we really appreciate, I think SGA started, Wesley, you'll know this one, but SGA created the sustainability officer position, I think, within the last 5 years. So there really has been a push from students. And I think that's what really resonates with us as faculty as well, seeing the students be passionate about this. And we respond to their passion. I think also to kind of piggyback on what George and Barb has said, I listed about half a dozen programs then. Our sustainability curriculum is across multiple colleges, across multiple departments and programs. There's a couple of great courses in political science, or a great course in the School of Business, or Bob's course. Who would think to go to the College of Communication for sustainability-focused curriculum? And I think one of the things that has maybe held back some of the effort has been both DePaul's strength and weakness. And our strength is we can take a subject like sustainability or health or something and look at it from multiple angles in multiple colleges. But it also means there's no one-two place to go to find that subject area. And so I'd really encourage anybody watching this to definitely talk with colleagues, with peers, with faculty, with advisors, because there's a lot of really great sustainability-focused curriculum out there. It's just not quite all in the same place.
Yeah, I'll chime in there about SGA. We have definitely been growing our sustainability kind of footprint more this year. It's something that's kind of been of interest in the past few years among students. When I joined last year, or something where we had different student organizations around. With Climate Reality, I know for certain, come in and present to us on what is going on with sustainability at DePaul and kind of encouraging us to get more movement among that. And I've kind of been building on that a lot this year. We've had a number of different resolutions and different statements. There's going to be a measure on the ballot coming up that is about if we want to implement a green fee at the university. That's kind of more just a getting poll of students and seeing what's of interest to them to see if we could want a sustainability fee to pay for some of the things that the university might not be able to pay for right now, which it comes from a number of different factors. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic and that's effect on the university's budget certainly affects how much they can provide to fund sustainability efforts, but that's something that perhaps students might want to take up the initiative to do so, because if it's something we really care about, then perhaps we are willing to give a little bit more money so that can happen.
Grace, I'm realizing I don't think we actually answered your original question in terms of what we've been doing, though. So let me go back to that. So Wesley mentioned the 4 DePaul Pulse surveys, right? We had almost 10,000 responses across those 4, which was excellent. We initiated those, and what he alluded to this a bit, but the primary reason was because to this point, in time in terms of having the wholehearted support of the university to make this a priority. A frequent reason for further action not being taken or investment has been because there's not been student demand or simple larger demand in the community. We know that as DePaul professionals and professors, that's not true, right? If you look at just general market data, over 3/4 of millennials, Gen Zers, the individuals who comprise of a majority of DePaul's student body now and for the next couple decades, they care about sustainability in the products and the services that they purchase. And education's no different there. So we said, okay, let's just go collect this data. That we need to start somewhere, and we need to just say, hey, we've asked the community at hand, and this is what they supplied us with. So we did the pulse survey. It was great. Didn't do a whole lot. So we've actually, in the last couple weeks, launched a petition that is basically asking the same thing. Will you help us make this a priority and give us your voice so we can, just take this total sum of petition answers or signatures to the leadership to say, these are all the different segments in the DePaul community who have agreed to or said, yes, we want you to invest in this. So that's currently active. So that is something we're circulating, and it's not saying, DePaul, you've done this wrong or you're doing it wrong. It's saying there's great opportunity here that we need to take advantage of, because it's not just us wanting to do it. We realize there's a financial benefit at hand. DePaul's at a current budget deficit. This can help close some of those gaps from an operations standpoint. We are a Catholic Vincentian University. We have a big social footprint in the region. We don't, though, measure those social impacts because there's a lot that DePaul's doing that we can say it's helping attract more students or it's helping with faculty and staff retention. That all adds up to bottom line value. So we need to start measuring these things and communicating them in a proper format, which is not something we've done super well to date, but is a great, like I said, an opportunity for us to do. Last thing I'll mention, we've got a conference coming up, which is the Sustainability at DePaul Conference, which is May 7th and the 8th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central. That is an opportunity for all of these community members to interact, frankly. We're in a virtual world. It's tough to get a cup of coffee or meet with a group. This is a chance for all students, faculty, alumni, staffers, and the larger sustainability in Chicago to come together, connect, and say, hey, these are all the opportunities that are available to anyone looking for them. Because something we're all trying to communicate to these young people is that you don't need to be LEED certified. You don't need to have a background in engineering or chemistry or biology to work in sustainability. We need those marketing folks, those finance folks, those accounting folks to help mission-driven businesses, entities, products, etc., be successful and take up more of the market share.
Something I want to touch on that I think we also haven't covered yet, talking about mission-driven. I think obviously as an institution, DePaul is also heavily mission-driven. This year we've been kind of going through the mission revision process. We've actually been that's something that we've been doing sort of as a group, I won't say on the side, but something that we've been doing and actively involved with. I know in the fall when they were doing kind of the Seeds of the Mission stuff, I was participating in those, and we kind of see some results from that with the new mission coming out last month, or I think it was last month. We saw that environmental sustainability was included as part of that new mission in terms of being a priority of the university, that when we're solving these issues, environmental sustainability is one of those things that we need to address as a university community. I think that's a really big success to see the university hopefully start buying more into environmental sustainability being a priority of the university and something connected directly to our Vincentian mission and something that is just inherent to what we do.
I would just like to expand a bit on the conference that's upcoming. The conference also is going to highlight the student groups that we have on campus. That's another problem, is that a number of students, even our students majoring as undergraduates in environmental science and studies, don't know all of the different organizations they can get involved with, like the Fair Trade Group and the DePaul trees, and certainly many of them do know about the DePaul Urban Garden because many of the activities are hosted by the DePaul Environmental Science and Studies. But and campus climate reality, campus core, that works on educating people about climate reality and getting involved in advocacy and legislation and promoting legislation on climate change. I mean, these are great opportunities for students to start getting involved, getting to know other people on campus that are interested in the same kinds of activities. So there's going to be a panel where these students are going to come and they're going to present what they do, and you can learn more about how to get involved. So that's a great opportunity as well. And if you want to get involved even before then, we do have a web page on DHub, which is the campus organization. Maybe Wesley can tell. Oh, there it is. And you can find out about that on DHub, and they'll point out all the organizations and how to get involved that way.
And last thing I'll mention just on this topic, I got into a bit about just these younger generations who are moving into the financial and just positions of power in business and industry, right? It's a competitive advantage for DePaul to prioritize sustainability more and invest in it. And I think the stat we throw around all the time that really hits home and means the most to us is that one of our top competitors, Loyola University, who's been an absolute rock star in terms of their sustainability efforts, has recently published a stat on their new College of Environmental Studies or Sustainability, excuse me, that over 52% of incoming freshmen at Loyola chose the university because of their commitment to the environment. So that is just stating the obvious, that we know that these young folks want their universities and institutions to do more. And we frequently discuss how no one entity or person can solve all these problems that climate change is presenting to us. And just because Chicago is not on the coast or in the desert doesn't mean that we're not going to see impacts from climate change. We're seeing more precipitation and flooding. It's impacting us already. It's not 10 years off. So we need to do what we can, and as a big stakeholder in the city of Chicago, to help the communities around us even more so than we already are.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you all for covering so much with that question, and no worries about going on tangents. Tangents are welcome, and you covered a lot of really important information about what you've been doing and how students can get involved, which is included in my next question. I'll also throw up the petition link that we talked about earlier as a way to really get like some direct action and some involvement for students interested, along with the conference that's coming up with the panel, and the website and student orgs. And as a student myself, I can speak to, like there's a lot of different classes, not just in like environmental studies. Like I've taken a class with Barb before in the College of Communication. It's all over. So there's a lot of ways students can get involved in sustainability. But that is my next question, if there are any other areas for students, faculty, staff to directly support DePaul's sustainability initiative.
Go ahead, Ewan.
I think everything we've talked about so far, the student organizations, there's from the faculty side, obviously, we look at registrations and enrollment all the time. So vote with your feet, I think ask more questions about it. I mean, I think one of the things I would encourage is students need to keep asking questions, getting involved, look at the DHub groups, find your passion there. I know the Stain Center for Community-Based Service Learning, for example, has a number of fellowships and connections with organizations across the city doing work in this area. The Career Center, I was looking at the Career Center recently. They don't have a sustainability career group. And I think, I think at the DePaul, I mean, academic institutions. This is Professor Ewan Haig wearing his institutional management hat on. But universities like this it's like the Titanic, right? It's very slow to pivot on these things. But the thing that makes the pivot is the students asking and asking questions. So go to the career center and say, "Hey, I want a job in this." We have alums. We have a current student in the School of Public Service who is currently an intern at the YMCA and is coordinating a global YMCA youth conversation on climate change. So and in 6 months' time, she'll be an alum. We have a network out there. We're just not leveraging it. So I think, students should keep asking, enroll in classes, ask professors, ask staff, ask the Office of the Mission, ask for service learning. I know our study abroad trips quite often do environmentally focused work. So I think I think, ask and find out, as well as get involved in these organizations. I think a lot of people are, and I think the other thing that I would say is that this really resonates with our mission as a whole. If you look at Pope Francis's Laudato Si a few years ago, that was a clear call to action. More recently, Professor Pat Bombard in the Hay Center on Leadership here hosted a Vincentian Sustainability Conference that sort of brought together the Vincentian family around this issue. So I really think it's part and parcel of the mission. And I think it's really great that we're having these conversations now. The conference coming up in May. We have new courses. I know in public policy studies, we've got a new course coming up in the fall on environmental mediation. And so there's a lot of these. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I think it's one of these things where if you might have to ask to find it, because as we said, it's not all in one place. But ask for the Career Center, ask student orgs, ask professors, ask in service learning, ask in service immersion trips, and there's a lot of opportunities out there for students to get engaged.
I'll chime in with a couple of ones as well. I think on the student side, obviously mentioned all of different organizations. Some of them are kind of, obviously this year has been difficult for student organizations in general. I know some of the student organizations haven't been meeting as often, or just not at all in some cases. But obviously, as we're looking more towards even the future in terms of next year in the fall, and as we continue to kind of transition back to more on-campus offerings and more on-campus meetings, I think we'll see a lot more of these organizations kind of resume their more normal operations or kind of revive themselves. And I think Climate Reality has really been starting to kind of start meeting more now in the past month or so. So I'm excited to see what they start doing, kind of see what work comes out of them. On the SGA side, I've mentioned we have a sustainability committee, and that's open to all students. So if students are interested in getting involved with SGA and getting involved with sustainability specifically, we have that committee. It's on, I'm pretty sure it's on that go.depaul.edu/sustainability. If it's not, I'll make sure it is, or if you look up SGA, it'll be on there as well. But that's really a good way for students to get involved, and I'm directly involved with that. So you would be seeing me.
I'll add a couple more items to this growing list. Ewan alluded to this. Post on social media about any interesting or questions you have about the university or maybe some of its programs. Use your voice. And a lot of times social media is the most direct way to do that. You can also, if you are so inclined, join our little DePaul Sustainability Group that meets bi-weekly each quarter and addresses all these different projects we've already discussed: the petition, the conference, building this DePaul Sustainability website out further on DHub, which we're currently in the midst of doing. And then I also want to just tap into the social movement that's going on right now. I know a lot of you probably watching this are very tuned in to what's going on in the George Floyd trial and all these other horrible atrocities that have occurred over the last year and decades, right? That are now really coming to light. And it seems like action is going to be taken, right? Well, far too often when people hear the word sustainability, they only think about the environment. But sustainability is all about the environment, society, and the economy. They're all very interwoven. One does not exist without the other. So if you want to benefit the communities of color in Chicago that are feeling these oppressive institutions and policies, or rearing particularly worse than other pockets that are maybe more affluent and white, again, due to climate change's impact, helping out on campus is probably one of the more immediate ways you can do just that, because they are not separate by any means. And as a student, don't think you're powerless. You can do something, and it frankly is just a lot of the time reaching out and figuring out what that is specifically. If you don't be intimidated by the task at hand. Create the change you want to see, as they say. If I can add one more thing, I also just want to encourage folks to join our LinkedIn group, which is the DePaul Sustainability Network. It's open to anyone who's affiliated with DePaul University, alum, students, faculty, staff, former faculty and staff. That's just an area where we're communing, posting job alerts, new research, or interesting news, anything that might be relevant or beneficial to you all. So it's one of the easier ways we're communicating now in this virtual world. It will stay active once we get back to in person in the coming year, hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, join us and contribute, please.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for that advice and the contributions, and directing students on where to join and get involved. Those are all of the questions that I had for today's panel. So before we wrap up, any last thoughts or words that you want to leave with today?
Yeah, I'll jump in on this one. I've been on a couple of panels recently, international conversations really, about what how we're going to rebuild the post-pandemic world and the post-pandemic economy, and my own personal interest, the post-pandemic city, and how are we going to have an ethical city, a just city, and a city that works for everybody. And I think, sustainability is going to be at the heart of that. And I think quite often in the United States as well, we don't necessarily see the work that's going on globally on these issues. And certainly encourage people to look at our DePaul's global engagement pages. I was on a global conversation recently with people from England and Colombia discussing sustainable urban development in multiple countries. And so I think that there's other ways of getting involved. Something like, definitely check out the global engagement pages that we have at DePaul. But I also think if you look, the United Nations is arguing that the future of the Earth has got to be environmentally sustainable, economically sustainable, and socially equitable. And I think, there's these big organizations that other countries really use as a guide. And there's other groups out there. There's a group called 880 Cities, which is about building cities to be sustainable for everybody aged 8 through 80. There's a mayors to mayors contact called C40 Cities, which is, again, these kind of international policies. So I really think there's lots of examples out there of other institutions. And I think, the more we can keep this conversation going, the better it is for students, not just students at DePaul, but, us as a society and as a citizenry as a whole.
Yeah, I'd just like to add on to that we really are at a crucial moment with the election of Joe Biden, with a legislature that is strongly in support, at least in the moment, for climate change activism here in the United States, with a period of time, according to scientists and an international treaty where we need to act on climate change, with an understanding of sustainability being just sustainability, and having a certain sense of justice about it. I think it is a time to act, and DePaul is poised to be able to jump into this, and for students to become highly active and participate in this really exciting time where we start to see a transition towards making this a sustainable world for everyone, economically, socially, and certainly environmentally. So come and join us at the DePaul Sustainable Network, please.
My final thoughts. take at least, if you are watching this and you have never cared about sustainability before in your life, or like frankly, or not very familiar with it before this video, but might be a bit more interested now, I would recommend just take a course on it. As Ewan mentioned, they range in the focus area because, like many business practices, sustainability spans almost every business function. We need to be more circular in all of our business operations moving forward. If we have a shot in hell of making it out of 2100, and see how you might be able to make your future career a bit more circular. It's going to impact those of you who are mathematicians or chemists or biologists, and just understand that little bit that you might be able to contribute to your current or future employer. Also, I just want to highlight how don't be discouraged by the pandemic and think that all hope is lost and that's all we need to worry about now. We need to still look ahead and address these other issues that are climate driven, because frankly speaking, in our lifetime, we might see issues that are far worse than COVID-19. By 2050, I think the projection is that over 325 million people will be displaced or climate migrants due to water scarcity. Issues like that are going to cause significantly more problems than this virus, and they are not too far off in the distance. And so we need to figure out solutions to those, or help figure out how to mitigate those risks now. This is no longer something that we can pass along to our children or our grandchildren. We have to address it. So I'm so glad you had us on. Thank you, Wesley and Grace. This was excellent. Please reach out to all of us. I think I speak for Barb and Ewan when I say reach out, contact us. We are happy to answer questions or just chat with you. We're here. We're assets. We're resources.
Yeah, and if I could chime in a little bit on the student side as well, I mean, echoing some of what I already said about this post-pandemic world, obviously at DePaul itself, I mean, these new classes that are coming in, we had a class that came in the fall, as well as our new incoming class in the fall, are going to be making up a huge part of the DePaul community, half of it in terms of the students, and a lot of them haven't even seen campus before, and that gives us plenty of opportunity to see, what do we want this new DePaul to look like? I mean, DePaul was refashioning a lot of what we're doing. What class can be moved online? And that doesn't just apply to classes and curriculum, but it also applies to, like, what do we want the campus space to look like? What are things that our student body is interested in? And I think, these things we're doing, the DePaul Sustainability Conference and the petition, we kind of talked about those earlier. Those things are definitely things that will get you involved and kind of show that this is something we want to be part of. This new DePaul, this new face of DePaul is sustainability. I think that's something that I'm really hoping is what our student body takes forward.
Amazing. Thank you all again for such great insight and sharing your experience, and for this advice and support and just like inspiration really for students currently and new students to really get involved in sustainability. I will plug again some of the upcoming events and things students can get involved in. If Wesley, you want to kind of speak to that again with the petition?
Yeah, so we have this petition going around that's kind of asking not to like say DePaul is doing something bad, but there are ways to improve DePaul and make things better, to save money, to kind of fill in these budget deficits, and just to see these values that we all share kind of come to the forefront at DePaul. And then the conference, that's something else that's coming up. That's May 7th and 8th. That's a way for kind of us to talk about what is DePaul doing about sustainability, what is kind of the DePaul community around sustainability doing, talk a little bit about some expertise, as well as highlight some of the different groups and different individuals within the community, highlight some alumni, and opportunities you can take after you graduate.
It's free and open to everyone.
Yeah, for more details, look up the May 7th on events.depaul.edu. You can find the details there.
Amazing. Yep, right there. All right. Great. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks for all that you do for sustainability at DePaul. It is much appreciated. Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, folks.
Bye, everyone.